Hello. Imagine if gravity on Earth suddenly disappeared for 1 minute. This would have catastrophic consequences for everything on its surface, since all objects, including people, cars, buildings, and even the oceans, would begin to rise into the air due to the lack of force holding them in place. And although the atmosphere would continue to move with the Earth due to inertia, everything else would rapidly break away from the surface, because even the slightest movement could launch an object into uncontrolled flight, and people who jumped or simply lifted their feet would instantly begin to drift upward, having no way to return to the ground except to cling to something reliable. However, most objects and structures would also begin to move in chaotic directions, which would lead to numerous collisions and destruction. While in the seas and oceans, water would instantly form giant waves and begin to rise in huge volumes, creating unprecedented on a scale catastrophes. Because without gravity, liquids would lose their usual level and flow in arbitrary shapes, which would result in massive devastation of coastal areas, as well as the death of many sea creatures not adapted to such changes. And birds and airplanes in flight would also experience serious difficulties, since aerodynamics, which depend on gravity, would be completely disrupted, as a result of which aviation would become uncontrollable. And pilots and passengers who were not buckled up would begin to float uncontrollably in airplane cabins, which would increase the risk of fatal injuries. And space satellites in orbit might not feel significant changes, since they are already moving in weightlessness. But the impact on other celestial bodies, such as the Moon, would depend on whether gravity was turned off locally for the Earth or for the entire solar system. And if this phenomenon was limited to our planet, then surrounding objects such as the Moon would continue their movement according to the laws of celestial mechanics. But if gravity disappeared globally, this could lead to serious changes in the movements of planets and other celestial bodies, causing chaos on a cosmic scale. And the return of gravity after this minute break would cause no less serious consequences, since all objects that managed to rise would begin to fall back at a tremendous speed, which would lead to massive destruction, injuries, and deaths. And the oceans that rose due to the absence of gravity would begin to rapidly collapse back into their places, causing mega tsunamis and catastrophic flooding of vast areas. And buildings that could lose their stability at the moment of the gravitational pause would also begin to collapse under the influence of the sudden return of gravity, creating additional threats to human life. And among other possible effects, we can mention immediate changes in processes dependent on gravity, such as blood circulation in the human body, which would temporarily work in weightlessness, which could cause short-term or even long-term health problems, especially for people with cardiovascular diseases. And although 1 minute seems like a small period of time, the consequences of such a gravitational disruption would be so significant that humanity would still have a long time to recover from this phenomenon. And if something like this were to happen regularly, it would make the Earth completely uninhabitable. Because the stability of gravity is a fundamental condition for the existence of any form of life on our planet. And that is why gravity is such an important force that ensures order in our solar system and supports the existence of the world in its current form. And its absence, even for 1 minute, would force humanity to rethink its place in the universe and understand how dependent we are on natural laws that seem immutable to us, but which, if only for a short time are disrupted, can lead to large-scale disasters and irreversible changes in the lives of each of us.